Hello, hello. Welcome to this episode. I am joined by a very special guest today who I am extremely excited to have a very honest and open conversation. I feel it's going to be a beautiful conversation today with the lovely Lara Bokovay. So Lara is an amazing person who's very aligned with me, which I absolutely love. Because she also helps people to unfuck themselves. So very excited for this particular conversation. So Lara, I'm going to hand over to you if you want to give our audience a little introduction to you, the amazing work that you do in lovely, beautiful Canada.
Thank you so much. So essentially, I am an intuitive coach. I'm a mom and a truth teller, and I help women come back into alignment. So doing so, we sort of go through generational patterning, survival habits, and sort of figure out where you're out of alignment. And so whether that's in business or in parenthood or just in life in general, I sort of, lead the way by living the way and sort of help you embrace your peace and sort of move forward with your life.
Amazing. I love that. And it's so important because we inherit these patterns, right, that we never agreed to carry. And I think for a lot of people, it's realizing that and then being able to get rid of them. So important. And I know from our previous conversations, you've said that you were living on autopilot before everything kind of cracked open for you. Is it cool if you share what that actually looks like for you?
So I was truly detached from myself. And that's like one component of, when I say alignment, I truly was not connected with what was going on with my body.
Yeah.
I had this idea of what was going on, but I wasn't actually pulling it in. So I was just going through the motions of social programming and conditioning of like what we should do, what we should be, how we should climb, what we should look like, what is sexy, what's not sexy, what is attractive, you name it, any pillar of your life, I was backwards in my reality. And when I say backwards, it was my reality, but truly it was so distorted my belief in each one that it kept me on this like hamster wheel. And so, I didn't know I had the career, I had the job, I had the husband, I had this life, and yet I still felt so empty. And there was no amount of like money or, opportunities or trips that actually fulfilled me in any way. Like it was something that I looked forward to, but it's just like, right, am I just now striving for my retirement? Like it was just like, where's that big next milestone? Oh, right, that's in 30 years or that's in 40 years. Like there wasn't. So I was just on this like circle doing all the things that everyone says, oh, you're looking forward to do this. And I mean, oh, like, okay, where are you going this year on vacation? And like, it's the same sort of circle. And the whole time I'm still feeling completely empty. And I didn't even know that I was empty, if that makes sense. Like, when you're numb, like you don't feel anything. Like I was truly detached from my senses. Like I couldn't recognize what was going on in my body. I couldn't recognize when I was in fight or flight. I couldn't recognize when I was safe, when I wasn't safe. What does that even mean? I had no idea what it even meant to be loved the way I wanted to be loved. Like I was truly oblivious to what was really going on for me.
Yeah, I think that's, unfortunately, that is so normal and really common. And, of people that have listened to me for a while will know I say like the word should ironically be banished from like the dictionary because it creates
would get it out of there.
Yeah, like what? Yeah. The unnecessary pressure that creates. And, I don't think I know very many people that aren't looking for all the time, like waiting for the holiday, waiting for the next thing or the next milestone. And what about living in now? Because now is the only moment that truly exists. So it's so important to bring people back into that place. And yeah, I think for a lot of people, this is just regular, and that's frightening.
Frightening and sad. But it, once again, it's not sad until you're aware that it's sad,
Yeah.
right? Like you're not awake until you're awake. Like you can't see until your blinders are actually ripped off and you're like, oh my God, like,
Yeah.
So,
What was that?
so yeah, like you don't know until you know, and then you can't go back, sort of thing.
Yeah, very, very true. And what was that moment for you? What was like the moment that you realized what was actually going on and enough is enough?
I mean, the universe plays, the universe will move you until you're so uncomfortable that you have to move. And I am, through my healing journey, I've realized how stubborn I am.
Same.
And so the universe has to put me on my ass, literally, over and over and over again. So like when I left my corporate career, I had to have my entire contract changed for me to move, and then went through that dismantling. It's like, nope. And that was a huge shift. You know what I mean? Like that was, a 75% income switch is what and I was like, what? Anyways. And then, I had to go through actual almost IVF, but, was working with fertility clinics to get there till I was like, okay, what's going on with your body? Then, we had the pandemic to throw things in the mix. And then, on top of that, then, my marriage started unraveling and then, separated in 2020. So it's like, it was one of those things that like, and then, finally moved, finally got a breather, and the universe took me out and I fully tore my Achilles and broke my other hand. And so like the universe put me flat out so I can learn how to receive.
Yeah.
Like, it's like, like everything that I've gone through to the outside world has been so intense or extreme to a lot of people, but it's like, no, but that's how big of shifts had to happen for me to like, unfuck myself and figure myself out truly. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's just like, they weren't like little moments. They were like big tower moments tower moments I know don't have to be huge and they can be in our favor, but like, well, everything's in our favor, but you know what I mean? They had to be these huge, huge things to really like shift me into like, oh my gosh, what is happening? Like, oh my gosh, this is what's being presented in front of me. And it's like, and they're not little things that you can just navigate. Like, my engine blowing up while I'm driving in my car. It's just like, like, and when I say like, this is all in a 5-year span, it was like one thing after the next. It's like, the universe is like, oh, you're not looking at this? Boom. Like, oh, you're not paying attention to this? Okay. Like, oh, like, and so, and that's just how I like internalize, how I function. It's like even my cousin who I've done a lot of the generational trauma pattern healing with, she has to yell at me for me to actually listen. Like everything has to be so extreme to like shake me and wake me up.
Yeah.
Because I'm just that stubborn.
And I think you're absolutely not alone. And I know a lot of our listeners will relate to this as well. And how did you find, because obviously when this happens to us and it is like bam, 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 and it's all these big monumental like shit storms happening to us, what was the thing that helps you kind of get through that and not like completely break and not think like, well, the universe is against me and, there's nothing that I could do? How did you sort of either stay in your power or reclaim your power to actually get through those shit storms?
I say often that life happens for you, not to you. And, I truly believe that we co-create our own reality. And and honestly, it took a lot of healing to have faith or trust that I've never been entirely abandoned. And these are, when you reprogram your mind to be like, okay, for my soul's highest purpose, this is what I need to experience right now, even if it's horrific. Like, like there's a lot of, the love and light BS is BS. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's not, healing is not for the faint of heart, and everything that you experience is somehow for your soul's highest purpose. Like, we are truly living out the curriculum that the divine has put forward for us, and every day is a new lesson plan. And so my lesson plan is different than your lesson plan, and what you have to experience is different than what I have to experience. I mean, sometimes it's the same themes and we get to the same conclusion, but the path that you have to take is different than the path that I have to take to get to that same level of awareness. And so the lesson is the same, the work is different, but it's more of a it's trusting that it's all for my highest good, even though I don't have to like it. And sometimes when we sit in that energy for too long, or that victim mentality, you're completely powerless. When you shift out of victim mentality, even if it's, like I said, there's horrific things that can happen, but when you know that you have the power to say, okay, right, this has happened, now how I'm going to internalize this, run with this, process this, and move forward, right? Like, if I'm still standing, I wasn't taken out entirely yet. So there's purpose in that. And so, when we go back to holding that there's a greater purpose that is sort of, beyond what we can comprehend. We don't need to understand it all. We don't need to control it all. We can't control it all. Like, and that's a huge awareness for people to get to, is that, like, it's out of your control. You can't control this. But, even from that, it's coming back to, right, this is happening for me, not to me. What is the lesson? What am I needing to learn? How am I moving forward? How am I incorporating this? What is this showing me? And even that level of awareness to ask myself those questions came over and over and over again. So what I went through 7 or 8 years ago that completely took me out might only take me out for a week, and then a day, and eventually on the healing journey, because we'll heal for the rest of our lives. We keep on going around through our pillars, with different levels of awareness every single time. But every single time, it's faster and faster and faster. So what would used to take me out for a month, then took me out for, 2 weeks, then a week. And then now, if something huge happens, even if it's wild, I can pretty much process it within an hour. So it's like, right, okay, let's recalibrate, let's internalize everything. Right. Okay. So this is the reality. Like, this is, what the outcome was. Let's move forward. So you're able to process it really quickly. And so you don't get stuck in victim mode. And so you don't get stuck in this feeling of not feeling empowered. Like, you know what I mean? You always can co-create everything moving forward. So how are you going to co-create that? So, we can't just sit back and let the universe sort of deliver it to us. We still have to take action. But yeah, so truly it was coming to the awareness that this is for a greater purpose, and then holding that all the time, and holding that vision that I hold for myself. Like, truly, there was a quote, like, your vision is your anchor, without it you drift. And that truly is, every single time it's like, right, this is not the vision that I have for myself. Like, this is not where I'm left to die, sort of thing. Like, this is not the end of the road. So it's like, well, what is that vision, and how? And even though you don't need to understand the hows or the whys, you have to, it's that level of acceptance, and you're like, okay, right, I'm accepting this. Like, this is what it is. You have to accept it. And then you run with it, as opposed to getting, so many people get lost in the drama and the chaos of trying to understand it. And I think that's where people get stuck, or where they spiral, where they sit for a really long time, because they just can't understand it and comprehend it. And you don't need to. You don't need to. You can say, right, I don't want to feel like this. I want to feel better. The vision that I have for myself is that I'm happy, that I'm laughing, that, you know, I'm on a beach somewhere, whatever the case is.
Yeah.
And that's the vision that I'm going towards. But sitting in this chaos and this drama is not aligning with the vision that I have for myself. So it's like recalibrating, but constantly reminding yourself of the vision that you hold for yourself.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's so important. You mentioned some really key things there that I know people will take away from this. But for a lot of people, I think it's very much like a bitter pill to swallow, because it is that acceptance. And yeah, you know, we've agreed for this curriculum. We've signed up for this course in this lifetime. And for a lot of people, there can be so much resistance around that. And I think you're right, you know, the acceptance of that, like we are where we are. But, you know, if you stay in that space, if you stay in that victim mentality, you know, your frequency is so affected by that. And this is where I have a thing with healing. Like, I am a healer and I love healing. And I think very similar to you, like, I prefer progressive healing. Like, we're not digging, we're not looking all the time, well, what's wrong? Why is this happening? What's wrong? We don't need to necessarily know why things are going on. We want to progress with our healing. So you're, like you said, you know, you're not staying in that space for so long, and you can get to a point where, yeah, you might be in that space for an hour, you know, have what I call like your pity party, and then we move on, we progress from it. And I think there's almost like a race for people to have all the answers and to be fully healed. But if you reach that point, you're no longer having your human experience, you're not here anymore.
It's a double-edged sword, because like, even though like, so a lot of people don't pull it through for themselves, and that's the difference. They're like, okay, right, this was going on with the situation, and they never pull it in to be like, but how did I co-create it?
Yeah.
And so if you can get to the point, so it's like, yeah, we don't need to understand the whys of the, like, why this happened the way it happened. But you do need to understand the why with why you allowed it to happen, right? Like, so if you realize why you allowed it to happen, or like you said, frequency, like when you're putting out a resonance that, you know, this is, I'm not consciously or subconsciously like ready for a relationship or want to blend families or whatever the case is, then you're going to find a partner who doesn't want that either. And then you get so unhappy that they're not more engaged, but then your actions don't say that you're really engaged. Like, you're not really ready to receive either. So, you know what I mean? Like, it is still, you still need to pull it through for yourself, and why. And that's the hard pill to swallow. Like, it's really hard. Like, in my parenting, in my relationship, it's like, in my relationship, right, I emasculated my you know, my daughter's father all the time, because I was like in my like crazy wounded feminine in my masculine all the time. I had no idea. I read all the Cosmo magazines. I thought I knew what I was doing. I had no idea how distorted and in my masculine I was, like, you know. And so, and then it's like, right, okay, well, I had no idea how like narcissistic I was in my relationships as a parent. Like, I had no idea how mean I was or harsh I was. And so, you know, once again, it's not, you don't need to stay in the energy of like self-loathing, but you do need to accept that if you don't like what you see on the outside, well, there's something that it's mirroring within you. So what is that? And so you don't need to understand the why, but you do need to you need to understand what is that, like, right? Because then you'll just keep on repeating it, and you'll have the same scenarios repeat over and over and over again. So that's the whole thing. It's like, yeah, okay, we don't need to understand why it happened like this. Yeah. The lesson is this. What am I actually taking through? What am I actually pulling through? What do I actually, you know, and it could be just one, like I said, when I say layers and levels of awareness, you take one. If you can take more, if you have, you know, if you have the courage and bravery to do that and unravel yourself, you can take more. But then when that scenario happens again, you'll pull another thread of awareness. I just decided to do things on hyper overdrive because I did not want to repeat any of these lessons if I didn't need to. And so once again, if you want to unravel yourself to your core, go for it, because then at least when you have the next experience, there'll be another layer, but it will be so much better or forward in, what you want for yourself than it is if you just take a little bit and then move forward, right? So
Yeah.
you can't get stuck in our healing, but unfortunately, sometimes, like I said, you can't control how often those tower moments or experiences happen. And it could happen a lot if you're resistant to the lesson that needs to be learned for you to move forward.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, having an awareness where you are being resistant and taking that ownership and responsibility is really going to serve you well to help with that unraveling and then the progressing and moving through, which is awesome. And you mentioned about like masculine and feminine energy. And I know through a lot of your healing, you do work through like generational healing and working with your nervous system as well. Like, what roles do each of those components play in healing and feeling safe again, but also feeling ready to be a little bit more resilient and capable in dealing with whatever the next storm it is?
So I've done a lot of healing work in the last 7 years, but to calm your nervous system, when you realize that your nervous system is literally your mechanism, your foundational piece with how you can move forward. Like when your nervous system is calm and something happens and an experience happens that throws you on your ass, if your nervous system is regulated or close to regulated, I mean, we're so wired in cortisol that, it's not like you're going to have a perfect nervous system, but if you're operating at like a 1% capacity, at least you might be at 75 and 80. So like there's still the sweat and, like the stress sweat and everything, but at least you're closer to having that nervous system regulated. My nervous system being regulated has allowed me to be more present as a mother. Because I'm no longer in fight or flight. I'm no longer in survival mode. Like when you're triggered, when someone says something that upsets you, when you're overstimulated, when you're out of control, when you're fearful about something. And like I said, when we say triggered, I mean, like you could be stressed out about how to pay a bill and you're projecting onto your kid. Like when you're so triggered and have spent your entire life in survival mode to keep yourself safe, right? These are all how you keep yourself safe. You get defensive, you raise your voice, you try to repeat yourself, you're constantly trying to over-explain yourself, you're actually not hearing what the other person is saying. Even as a coach, when I'm working with individuals, there's so many different modalities that I use to regulate your nervous system, which have been an absolute game changer. You can take all the supplements in the world, and supplements are a beautiful thing, however, supplements can only go so far to rewire you at the cellular level. And fortunate enough, I work with different technologies that can help, put your cells back into homeostasis and allow your nervous system to, calm down. And so, it's imperative that when even I'm working with clients that if we can regulate your nervous system, then you can actually hear what I'm telling you. If your nervous system's not regulated and you're operating in fight or flight, you cannot receive anything. Same thing too, like it was wild when I tore my Achilles. I was working with a frequency practitioner, and one of the first protocols she ran was fight or flight, just so my body could calm down from inflammation so I can actually receive the frequency healing. You know what I mean? Like she ran concussion protocol, she ran fight or flight, she did all these things just to ground Lara back in so my body could actually go to work and heal what was actually torn and broken.
Beautiful.
So it's that's the, it's so even corresponding with like, you know, my daughter's father, it's like, no, if my nervous system is wired, I'm going to be triggered every single time there's a message. I'm going to be, you know, and so when your nervous system is calm, you can actually have a conversation. You can actually hear what people are saying because you're not, and when I say black out, you're not blacking out into your own story. Like so many times you'll hear people like, and they explain what happened. You're like, no, that's not really what happened. But that's how they perceive it.
Yeah.
That's how they hear it, right? Just because you hear it that way doesn't mean that's exactly what I said.
For sure.
But you heard it that way through your own triggers, traumas, you know, fears, insecurities, self-judgments, you name it.
Yeah.
So once again, that nervous system work is so imperative to do anything, to parent from truth or not trauma, to have a loving relationship, to even your own work. Because like, once again, if your nervous system is so all the time, even if something were to happen with like yourself, like I said, how long are you going to stay into victim mode? Getting your nervous system regulated and dropping out of fight or flight, or supporting your body to not be in fight or flight, allows you to be present. And you're like, right, I'm still standing. I'm okay. How are we moving forward? Like the world isn't ending.
Yeah.
Right? Like it's like a Chicken Little thing. It's like the sky is falling. The sky is falling. No, it's not. Or if it is, you have an umbrella, you're okay.
Yeah.
But you can't get to that awareness if your nervous system is dysregulated. So nervous system work, whether it's in somatic breathing or movement or breath work or, you know, frequency modalities or supplementation, if you incorporate as much as you can to give your body as many tools to help you, because our mind is one thing, but our body, it's like sometimes too, it's like, okay, my mind knows I'm safe, but my body's still trying to catch up.
Yeah.
Or your body knows you're safe and your mind isn't caught up. And so your mind just keeps on pulling your body back into fight or flight. So, you know, it can go both ways, but yeah, no, it's like a fundamental layer that you have to realize. And once again, we all have different, you know, when I say like trauma responses, like, you know, some people numb, some people disassociate, some people distract themselves, you know, you can name it what fight or flight looks like for you, right? You can start, you know, but like you can go quiet, you can start over talking. Like, you know, once again, everyone will have a different trauma response to something that they've experienced. And so when we can uncover that, so you can be present. And that's the inner work that I do. It's like, no, let's, you know, first let's figure out how to calm your, like, you know, let's identify what actually is going on. Then we spend some time on regulating your nervous system. And then we can actually move forward with like the rewiring and reprogramming of whatever it is that's, you know, holding you back. But like, it's truly, it's like, okay, like, let's first identify it. And then you might identify one and then you're still resisting somewhere else, or you might identify something else and then you're still resisting. So yeah, it's a layered, you know, flow and practice of it all. But yeah, nervous system is the fundamental base layer for any healing work, truly, because I've done it. And if I had a calmer nervous system, I probably could have done it so much faster. And that's the difference. It's like, yeah, I've done it. But you know what? It would have been so much easier. And I was taking the steps, but it was never enough. You know what I mean? But so like if I had a calmer nervous system 3 years ago, you know what I mean? Like this whole journey of like intense healing and universal, you know, puts me on my ass moments and all that kind of stuff would have probably been compressed. And so like I'm here saying, no, I've come through the other side. You know, I know how important this work is. If you can incorporate this into your practice, into your healing journey, whoa, what a game changer. Like what a game changer that can help you actually move forward so much quicker because you're no longer resisting. You're no longer in fight or flight. You're able to actually receive and be present and start becoming self-aware of what actually is going on in your body. So yeah, it's imperative.
Yeah, for sure. And I always say to people as well, you know, it's not just that receiving, but if we're talking about like things like manifestation, you know, once you've actually got it, you want to then be able to hold it as well. And if your body is going, I can't hold this, we lose it again. And this is why people go through those cycles of, yeah, I get the relationship and it's all happy, and then it goes to shit. And they repeat the patterns because their body can't physically hold it. And energetically, from an identity perspective, they've not shifted yet as well. So you're absolutely right. It is so very key. And for our listeners that are perhaps those that are parents, you know, what would you say is like your top tip for them to help themselves not pass things on to their kids and to try and sort of alleviate that a little bit?
Everything that you're frustrated with is your own doing. We lead the way. Like that is, you know, if your child is not a bad child, your child that's learned behavior. So, you know, like so many times I was just like, oh my gosh, she's entitled. And then I had to look at it being like, oh fuck, like I'm entitled. Like, you know what I mean? So it's like, okay, like, you know, these are learned behaviors. Your children come in all knowing. We reprogram some to something else. But, you know, like we truly, they are a reflection of us as people, as human beings. If you're kind, you know, now there's some exceptions. There's some strong-willed that they were influenced somewhere. But I mean, you know, a lot of times that's just their survival mechanism. They're trying to survive just like you're trying to survive. But if you can calm your nervous system and be present, that's all a child needs, is for you to be present and for you not to be reactive. And so, you know, I truly think that, you know, it's a shift in parenting to realize that everything that they're being triggered by or they're overstimulated by, it's all within, right? Like everything is within, nothing is external. So what, you know, and sometimes too, it's like, oh, they're not doing this. We're like, well, why do you think you can control that? Or, you know, why did you not plan better? Like, that's on you. Like, right? Like if your child's late and you're rushing and you're yelling at them, like, come on, get out the door. Well, that's on you. Like that, you know, you should have given more time. You know how long it takes. If you're late, it's your fault, not your kid's fault. So like a lot of people, and once again, it's so easy to blame someone else than take full accountability and ownership of what's going on. And so, yeah, with parents, it's like, no, like it's realizing that, you know, your children are a direct reflection of you, consciously or subconsciously. You might not even be aware of it, but you know what I mean? Like they're a product of their environment, truly, and you're their environment. You're their entire environment. So it's really, you know, your kid can't regulate their nervous system, it's because neither can you. So figure that out for yourself and then lead the way. Once again, lead the way. Like that, we forget how important and imperative our role is in shaping children. And, you know, we don't take enough responsibility and ownership of how big that is. So yeah, no, it is, your children are a direct reflection of you. And, you know, it's for you to sort of be present. You need to regulate your nervous system, because some people don't even realize that their nervous system is out of whack. That's the thing. Like when I say nervous system work, like I said, it could be, you know, you raise your voice, you get agitated, like you name it. Like there's like so many different things that you're just like, right, okay, I guess that is my nervous system. Or, you know, and they're like, oh, well, I've just had a long day. You're like, no, like that. Once again, what do you need to calm yourself down? Right. We don't know that. And, you know, unfortunately, so many people in Western society, what do we do to calm down? You know, we use substances, we do different things. And so once again, your child can't do that. Your child can't have a glass of wine at the end of the day.
Not a good idea.
Right? So it's like, so once again, our mechanisms of self-taught calming are completely whacked, right? Like it's like, well, okay, like what is that? You know what I mean? Like what a concept to like, you know, jump up and down or have a glass of cold water to shift the amygdala in your head. Like once again, like there's so many different ways that you could calm your nervous system, but we have been conditioned to use different things outside of us as opposed to figure out how to calm our nervous systems without the aid of any other substance.
Yeah, and I think media has a good role to play in that, and marketing and movies and the things we see as alternatives. It's really funny. That just made me think. I was at a Kundalini yoga practice on Sunday, and it was such like an inner child activity, but it was to calm the nervous system and like clear your energy field. Do you remember doing like pencil rolls when you were at school?
Yeah.
You're just doing those like backwards and forwards, and as an adult they really hurt.
Yeah, you're breaking up your fascia, everything that you've been holding on so tight.
But I was like, I felt amazing afterwards, but I was like, oh yes, that's a great. And even like if you do have children, you could do that with your kids, just like roll around doing pencil rolls and just calm both of you down, which is lovely.
Yeah, like roll around. You know how many times you used to do like, you know, the on your back, like back lift with your legs in the air, like the supported backward headstand or whatever. It's like, you know, like no, put your legs up at the wall, like so many times. That's a simple thing. Like me and my daughter always legs up on our bed, like before going to sleep, because it's like one of those things is like, I used to do it all the time as a kid, and you just naturally as a child do those things. My mom was always like, oh, Lara's washing the floors again, because I'd be rolling around on the floors, like winding back, because she had like wood floors, so I just slide everywhere. But like, once again, we laugh about that, but that was me calming my central nervous system and, you know, putting my legs up on the wall and seeing like if I could do a wall handstand. That's calming your nervous system. And we just naturally do it. Like our body just tries to do that as a child. So it's like, you know what I mean? Like those are things that like, you're like, oh, right. That's how to calm your nervous system. Like I said, children come in all knowing, and we sort of like, you know, challenge them, program that out of their system. But no, like they do things all the time to move energy and to calm themselves or do things that feel good in the body. And you know, it's like, oh no, like don't do that, or like get up off the floor or whatever. And you're like, no, like stay on the floor, like roll as much as you need to. If you need to run up and down the hallway 20 times before jumping into bed, do it, because you're moving energy and getting yourself regulated. So yeah, I think it's, once again, it's changing that awareness and perspective so that it's not like what makes you uncomfortable about their actions, right? That's on you. That's self-judgment. So it's like, once again, it's like all these things that like just trigger you. It's like, no, these are all your, you know, signs and symbolisms or open doors for you to like walk through and explore what actually is going on for you. Because they're literally, you know, like breadcrumbs that you can pick up on your healing journey. You're like, right, okay, need to look at that, right? Need to look at that. And the list is long, right? So, you know, you sort of take as much as you can chew and run with it. But we know what to do with our bodies, but we have taught ourselves that is, it's not that we taught ourselves. I don't even think we knew what we were doing. And so we never looked at it as such. Then you have these, you know, practitioners now be like doing the same thing that we did when we were 4 to, you know, 10 years old. And you're like, right. Like, I do feel better. So it's
I
pretty
knew
cool.
This all along. I knew. But children are so connected to source still, aren't they? Like they're so fully connected to their souls. And then, life and society and the world that we live in obviously shifts that. But just kind of coming like full circle and going back to what we mentioned at the start, when the world tries to pull you back and get you in those moments of should, like you should be doing this, how do you stay grounded and not get pulled back into that?
Once again, because I can now feel feelings.
I feel the feelings.
I feel the feelings, but no, I was truly numb. But now I can sort of say, okay, right, what is my body saying? Like when I say, like even yesterday, I was, you know, putting together an email, and I was just like, should I be sending this email? Am I just sending this email out of obligation? Like what am I doing with this email? And then my whole face, like I read it and I went like, and I was like, no. So it's like so many times also too, like, you know, we can't lie. We're really good liars, but it's trying to start catching yourself in your subconscious line. So it's like, that's why I say to journal and to use a pen and paper. Don't use a computer, don't use voice maps, like use your hand, because when you're writing, it's really hard to write out a lie. Like your hand glitches like as you're writing. Or if you're like, should I send this out? Ask yourself that in the mirror and then watch your reaction of your face. If your face does anything, like I have a pretty expressive face, but if your face does anything, you shouldn't. It's not in alignment. You're doing it, or like figure out, not that you shouldn't be sending it, but your intention isn't aligned, isn't clean in it. You know what I mean? So like what is the intention? Like, you know what I mean? Like what are you holding energetically around this? So it's like, and then it was so fascinating because then I was like, okay, that's not aligned, went to yoga, did this, and I've been sitting on it. And then last night at 11 o'clock, it was like, oh, right, this is really what I wanted to say. That feels right. That's aligned. So I knew that, I was called to put a message out. I didn't know what that did. In my mind originally, I was like, okay, well, I should talk about this, or like I could talk about this or whatever. And then I was like, no, not at all. Like, there was a thread of truth in that first, I guess, reflection, or, in the first of it, but no, it's sort of like morphed into something else. So yeah, like it's realizing when your body isn't like, yes, let's do this. And it's like, when you realize that like, no, your body is resisting, or, so many times, even like, in relationships, you're like, oh, right. Like, what is my body not doing on its own just because it lights me up? And you're just like, oh, right. I'm back to performing. Right. And that's what it is. It's dropping back into performance mode. We're so conditioned to perform a specific way and do specific things, and what we should, do, and what we, could do, and, all that kind of stuff. And so when you realize, you're like, hey, right, what's my intention? Am I performing? Am I just showing up? Is there an actual message? Like all that kind of stuff. Like, do I want to be going for dinner with this person? It doesn't really light me up. Do I want to be doing this event? Like, no, not really. Well, what is that? Not just no, not really, and not doing that. Explore what that is. You know what I mean? Explore what you don't want to do, or why you don't want to do it. And sometimes, yes, you just need to push yourself out of your comfort zone. However, most of the time, it's not just about being, in your comfort zone. It's like, okay, well, what about this is out of your comfort zone? Like what are you so scared of? Like there's still a fear. If you can actually unravel your fears and you're still uncomfortable and you're like, okay, well, I've been called to do this, so here I go. The experience is so much better because you've already processed and worked through all the fears that were giving you that nasty face in the first place. Like you know what I mean? So it's like, okay, right. Totally not what I've been doing, but so weird that this is, what, here I am, like, so many times, like I've done events and stuff like that, being like, why am I here? I don't know, but okay, I'm here for some sort of purpose. So even though it's uncomfortable, I have no more fears and spiraling around it. So it's just like, okay, I'm taking this as an experience and I'm running with it. But yeah, it's more sort of like reconnecting with what your body is telling you, so that if it's in alignment or if it's not in alignment, if it's, adding to your piece or destroying it, right? Like that is, it either has to be an absolute F this or like, like fuck yeah, or a fuck no. Like it's one or the two. Like, when you want to do something, it's like even doing a closet clean out. What makes you dance? What doesn't? Like, you know what I mean? What are you wearing because you think that this is the professional outfit? Like, why are you performing again? Like what actually what do you feel comfortable in? What makes your skin crawl? Like, you know what I mean? Like, what are you, how are you wearing and what are you wearing? You know what I mean? Like, I really loved flats. I hated heels. And so I have all these heels, but I'm just not a heel person. So it's just like, like I spent so much time buying all these heels and, just, I would never, I've never put on really heels since, I left my private sector corporate job. So it's 8 years and I haven't worn heels, like maybe once or twice, but other than that, like, so it's like, so many things that we just have, and we're not, and like I said, we're on autopilot. We're we're just going through the motions of everything, and we don't actually take the time and sort of ask ourselves, what is showing up in my body, and how does this feel, and does this feel in alignment, and does this feel right, and is this all on the path that goes towards that vision that I'm holding for myself.
Yeah, for sure. And are you performing? Are you shooting around the place? Yeah, I love that. Those moments of like check-ins, and something that I really enjoy doing at the same time as that is checking where I'm sort of operating from, like on a frequency level, but also on like an identity level. So like, is this the older version of me who's like playing it safe and keeping myself in that arena, or is this like my next best self, and am I operating from that version, which is where I really want to be? So yeah, those gorgeous little check-in moments are key. And I'm just going to finish up with one last question. So what we always do, and you will know this from your own little application as well, the previous guest leaves a question. So let's have a little look. Oh, I like this. So final question for you. What is the most unique thing about you that makes you different from everyone else in your industry? It's a deep one.
That's a deep one.
I love all of these questions that people leave.
I think one of the things, and I've come to this awareness actually recently, and you can have all the textbook theory in the world, and you could have read all the healing books and spiritual books and whatever, but many people actually live it. And so, you can't be in both worlds. You truly have to jump all in. You can't have one foot in and one foot out.
Yep.
And so even though my life doesn't look conventional to many people, I truly am living the way. And when I say living the way is I embody what I teach and what I guide. And so I think, in a lot of my coaching and my reading, I pull in my own story, because it's no longer just theory and concepts, but it actually shows what that looks like in real life, in real time, in real relationships, in real experiences, because it grounds it in for my clients. So it allows them to sort of say, oh, right, that's what it looks like. Oh, right, this is what self-abandonment looks like. This is what self-love looks like. This is what it looks like for choosing you, like all that kind of stuff. So, I think a lot of individuals can guide, but they can only guide you as far as they've gone themselves. And then when they start to circle or around different things, it's because they haven't truly embodied it, and they truly haven't pulled it through for themselves. So, I think that's what makes me different. Not only my intuitive side of things, but no, I speak from lived experience. So, everything that I can guide you through or walk you through, it's because I've been there. I get it, and so, like I said, the experience might be different, but the lesson at the end is the same. So yeah, embodied leadership and actually, living it, like living it, and showing what it looks like to actually live it, actually, live on faith, actually, what does that actually look like? And, to some people, they be on the edge of their seat holding on for dear life and be like, I can't do it. I'm just like, woo, let's go. Like, it's the fucking Bronco of the universe. So it's like, but yeah, no, I think that's what sets me apart. Is I'm actually consciously, living it and co-creating my life.
Beautiful. I love that. Thank you so, so much. And for those that want to follow your beautiful journey and connect with you, where is the best place for people to find you and reach out? How do you love to connect with people?
The best way is through my website, so www.larabokovay.com. And then I'm on all social media platforms. And it's just Lara Bokovay. So you can find me on Instagram, on TikTok, on Facebook, you name it.
Beautiful. And I will put all your links and details in the show notes as well. But this has been gorgeous. And thank you so much for being so honest and open and sharing your journey. And I know that this will inspire a lot of people and whoever is meant to hear the lessons and the nuggets from today's conversation, they will, and they'll take that away. So thank you. Thank you so, so much for.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. And we will, put everything in the show notes. And for everyone listening, I will see you next week for the next episode.